Hello, ladies. My name is Focus from the Focus of Love, my LLC, where I am a relationship coach. I'm an author. I'm a public speaker. Also, I train people in public speaking and I help people create virtual businesses. That was not always my story. I always knew I would be doing grand and great things and really helping people. However, at a tender age of 16, I was approached to have a relationship that would lead to marriage. See, I went into church looking for healing because I just found out for the second time about my father's death. At 10, he had died from an aneurysm, is what I was told. At 16, I was told he died as a result of committed suicide. Ouch. So I was traumatized twice. At 10, I'm thinking at any moment my head can explode like my dad and something inside of it and I die. At 16, I was told he committed suicide and I'm like, Drats, is that possible that I might commit suicide? And dude, how you just up and leave me? So frantic, enraged, angry, depressed, I entered church looking for healing. But unfortunately, I walked into a church with fundamentally unsound practices around marriage and indoctrination. So I found myself at 16 being approached as a candidate for marriage, at 17 being engaged, and at 18, I was actually married. Still a child myself, not healed and well damaged from my childhood. It was a tumultuous marriage. 4 years later, we were junior pastors to my husband at the time, mother. She was the pastor. And he would leave almost every day for some unforeseen situation around church. To the point where I had to have a conversation and say, listen, I'm looking for a relationship. I didn't marry to be single and we need to get a schedule. His response was, God comes first, and that is that. I was devastated, and to later find out he was actually cheating with our nanny. So it was on so many levels. I was devastated mentally, emotionally, spiritually. The betrayal so deep because it was right in our circle. Again, I was like, dude, you could have. Why didn't you cheat with one of those nurses at your job who was making $50,000, $75,000? We could all have been getting along eating cucumber sandwiches trying to figure this out. It would have been a come up, but you're cheating with the help, the person we're actually paying. So again, a deep sense of regret and resentment. And in my opinion, it's a right way to do wrong. And that was definitely not the right way to do wrong. So I walked around about 10 years after that, bleeding over anybody that would listen and hear that story because I was just so profoundly hurt. As I was walking around, I was in some sense of forgiveness and some sense of I understand, but never really at peace with myself, never really completely healed. Because see, here's what I believe. If you don't heal the hurt, you will just repeat the pain. And that's what I did. I got jobs and I got careers, but I would repeat the pain simply because I would create the job as a victim, or me as the victim in a job as a perpetrator, or got in another relationship where we got divorced out of that when I got in a relationship, had a daughter, and it was the same type of behavior. So the dude's name changed, right? But the interaction was still the same. So where did my aha moment come from? I was actually being scooped up off of my corporate job floor because for the third time, my manager refused to have a meeting with me about why I was one of the top salespeople but didn't get a raise. Again, I was devastated. I was the victim. It was injustice, and I passed out. So while the blaring sirens are going off in my ear as we're rushing through the parking lot to get me to an emergency room, unfortunately, the attendant, the EMT, was asking me my name and my date of birth, and I couldn't answer. And she quickly got irritated and then started talking about sports. And once again, I was victimized. I was shamed. I was embarrassed. I was enraged. But yet I couldn't really stay true. But what I realized as I reflected later on is that your urgency, your emergency is not everyone's urgency. Yeah, that's true. So although it's meaningful and painful to you, that's not everybody's experience. So the healing is going to come within for you seeking out the proper help of people that would take the time and attention to help you to heal. So as the story goes along, I arrive at the ER and I open my eyes. I'm on a gurney and I open my eyes and I look down the path and I see my mom. And then slightly after, my daughter trotting behind her. My mom's 64 at that time and my daughter too. And a tear began to stream down my eye as I recognized how unfair that was. My mom is 64. She can have her children, help raise several of her grands. And once again, she's left with the possibility of having to raise this child. That was my defining moment. That was my moment of enough. I'm done being the victim. See, I was with a different man in a different relationship, had a second child, had another child, but the story was still the same. I would go in and out and moving into his apartment. I even went to Women in Shelter, Women Against Abuse, and they supported me to get my own apartment where they put down the first month, last minute security. And I still had not gotten free. I was no longer living with someone, but that didn't equate my freedom. I was still bound to the traditions of my childhood, the traumas of my childhood, and also an abusive relationship with her father. Verbally abusive, both of us one to another, just not having the capacity, the emotional intelligence to actually have a conversation, simply because neither one of us was healed. So we just repeated the pain. So getting that enough was enough, I sought out support. I actually asked my brother, hey, does your church still come to people's homes to have a Bible study? He said, yeah. We set it up, and this aesthetically beautiful woman walk in, because I had enough with church. I could never go to church again and I would be okay. Plus I went to church enough for 3-4 people's lives. That's how much we were in church. So when she walked in, I was pleased. She was aesthetically pleased. She was intellectual. She actually was a nurse. So I was really embracing that. And as we did our Bible study, she closed the Bible and said, you need Landmark. I said, more than Jesus? She said, you can't even hear anything I'm saying. You're rebuttaling everything because you're stuck in your past. And Landmark is going to give you the tools to complete your past so that you can live in the present and into your future. That radically changed my life right there. That I can complete my past, live in the present, and into my future. I couldn't even sleep that whole night as we had that discussion. She made a few calls and tried to get some funding for me because funds were short because I was recovering from that passing out on my job and had not kicked in to my funds from my job yet, the FMLA and short-term disability. However, when I went and sat down and had what's called the introduction to Landmark, I knew that that was a defining moment, that I will never be a victim again, that I would have the tools to complete my past and actually live a fulfilling life. That was a turning point. 3 days and a half, 10-hour days. The half day was like 4 hours. And it radically moved my furniture. Because here's what happened. When your mind expands, it'll never go back again to the same mindset. And what a gift that was for me to be able to get the power of forgiveness started with me. All forgiveness is self-forgiveness. To the level of my ability to forgive myself and my participation in getting married so young and then getting in a new relationship and having another child still traumatized, I was able to forgive myself. So I was able to forgive my father for his death, for allowing himself to get murdered. That's a whole nother conversation. But I was able to set free him in his inability to be a father. I was able to forgive him, recognizing that he did the best he can do with the information that he actually had. And he gave me the ability to complete my past. Whew, such a relief off of my shoulder that I didn't have to live from my past of what I ain't gonna do and he better not. In the next relationship, he won't. All of those types of thoughts keep you in the past, keep you trying to not get that and repeat it. But in actuality, it will cause you to repeat it that much more. So completing that those relationships were then and what we did based off of the information we had. And now that I have new information, I simply can make new choices. I know I'm oversimplifying, but this is the work I do now as a life coach, where I really teach people how to manifest that, how to really embrace forgiveness. I promise you, the forgiveness, as you've been hearing down through the years, it's not just for that person. It is absolutely for you. As the old adage has said, it's like drinking poison and thinking it's actually affecting someone else when you don't forgive. It truly is. Now, forgiving doesn't mean to reconcile the relationship. That's also another tool I got in a big time way through that course. Doesn't mean you need to reconcile the relationship. What you're reconciling is the oneness with yourself, that you're able to forgive, you're able to heal, and have a level of relationship that's warranted towards that specific person. Right? So that's also the jewel that I got that was really powerful, that I did not have to go back to that husband. I did not have to restore the relationship with my daughter's father, but I actually can start with the restoration for myself, standing in my oneness, standing on my story, instead of sitting in my story, shrinking to the world of what I think it should have, could have been. This is Focus from the Focus of Love. I truly hope this has inspired you, that you can heal, you can overcome. And I don't want to just survive. I want to overcome and rejuvenate and regenerate and create myself anew, to allow that story to simply be a part of my journey of the becoming of who I am. And that there's a constant flow of the universe and God flowing through me to live my life. And that was simply part of that journey, to give me the awareness of how to speak to others and the empathy, the insight of how to deal with people. It was all a part of me, the manifestation of my gifts and understanding of who I am and what purpose in life is. That's the resolve I've received from the overcoming of the abuse. Now, I won't use that word anymore from here because I don't think I overcame. I am victorious. And I'm living a scrumptious, juicy life. Number 1, because I am now healed. 2, I have clarity. 3, I know my purpose. 4, I am generating scrumptious, juicy love from family, friends. I don't have my beau yet. However, the becoming of who I am feels good. And I'm waiting for the opportunity when our paths cross together, when God, the universe, allow it. And as a result of all of this, I'm living the life I love. And you too can have it. Do the work to get the power. This is Focus from the Focus of Love. Heal the hurt, or you will just repeat the pain. Bye-bye.